Hey, what's up guys? Rob of Rule of Two Review here, and today I want to make a pretty fun list video for you guys because I want to talk about Nintendo and the Wii U and the Gamepad. Right now, the Wii U is a system that is kind of mired in controversy. A lot of people seem to love it. Some of its best games get some of the best reviews in the industry, yet it's still not selling as well as a lot of us would like to hope, especially Nintendo. But that doesn't really change it from being my personal favorite system. You've heard me talk about it before. Nintendo's my favorite company. The Wii U right now is my favorite of the current generation machines, aided mostly due to the fact that it has the Gamepad, which is this amazing controller that not everybody loves, and I have to admit that I kind of understand why. It's sad to admit that, but for myself and for a lot of other gamers who are enjoying the Wii U, that Gamepad is the X factor. You know, that's the thing that really sets that system apart. Yes, it's not quite as powerful as its two competition counterparts, the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4, but that's okay, because I think it has more than enough power under the hood to make it a viable system today, and it's got that controller. It's nice that it has something that makes it unique. It's Nintendo's quirky innovation, where they're always working to do something just a little bit different from the competition, and they don't always knock it out of the park, but when they do pretty well to great, it's a special thing, and I think that they've almost done great with the Wii U and the Gamepad. It's a wonderful way to play games, and that's why I wanted to make this list today, is what are the 5 best games that I've played on the Wii U that take advantage of the Gamepad. Now, this is a really appropriate time to make this video, I think, because E3 is just a week around the corner. It's literally a week from today. Bethesda will have their press conference, and Nintendo is doing their Nintendo World Championship. So that is literally next Sunday, 1 week from today. And going into E3, we know that Nintendo is actually trying to focus on the Gamepad. Why is it important to their games, to the Wii U as a system and a gaming experience? What games and concepts and ideas are they going to showcase that show us why the Gamepad is great? We know that Star Fox is going to be their biggest, most high-profile game that will utilize the Gamepad and kind of exemplify why it's a great tool for not only for gamers playing games, but the real secret is that it's a great tool for developers and developing games. Obviously, not enough developers are noting this or paying attention to the Gamepad, but they should be. And I think it's the developers at this point that are missing out. I will look at Bethesda and Fallout 4 as a prime example of a studio that is absolutely missing the point of the Wii U and the Gamepad, and really missing an amazing opportunity to make Fallout 4 on the Wii U and make the Gamepad your Pip-Boy. It's just so blindingly obvious to me, but whatever. I still love Bethesda, and I cannot wait for Fallout 4, so that's what that is. Anyway, I'm going to quick gab it and get to my list. I wanted to make, like I said, a list of my 5 favorite games that I've played that take advantage of the Gamepad. It's important that I say games that I played because while I've played probably almost all of the relevant exclusive Wii U games and any title that probably takes advantage of the Gamepad, there's probably a couple that I might be missing. You know, I'm only one gamer. I can't play everything, and I can't buy everything. You know, I do the best I can. I don't think that there's any really integral Gamepad games that I haven't played, but just in case maybe your favorite Gamepad-related game didn't make the list, it's entirely possible that I didn't play it. So we're skipping honorable mentions for today because I don't want this to be too long of a video, and we already know it's probably going to be. So we're going to go ahead and get started with number 5. Now, I should give this one PSA. This is not the quality of the game per se that I'm ranking. It is literally only the quality of the Gamepad and how it's utilized in the gameplay. So remember that. I'm not talking about my favorite 5 games. It's just these games' individual respective uses of the Gamepad. And I think that's an important distinction. Please don't forget that. So number 5, as far as Gamepad utilization, is Pikmin 3. Pikmin 3, I should admit, is one of my favorite games on the Wii U. I think that it's probably the best-looking game I've seen on the Wii U to date. Yes, I mean that over Super Smash Bros., over Mario Kart. Bayonetta 2 actually puts a pretty good case in point there, so it could be one of those two. But either way, I think Pikmin 3 is one of the best-looking games on the Wii U. I think it was the best-looking game that it came out in 2013, which was the same year that The Last of Us came out, and that's saying something. And when it comes to the Gamepad in Pikmin 3, it's wonderful because that game is best played when you're using the Gamepad alongside of the Wii Remote and Nunchuck. You can play that game without the Wii Remote and Nunchuck, and you can just control the game with the Gamepad. And although it's serviceable and it works, it's not quite the same as being able to keep the gamepad separate as its own tool. It's like an additional peripheral in a game like that, where you have your map, and what's wonderful about that game, for anyone who's played it, you know what I'm talking about, while playing, and you've got your Wii remote and your nunchuck, and you're doing your thing, and you're one of the 3 aliens, and you're doing this, you're searching for Olimar, you're throwing Pikmin around, and then you need to kind of search the map, because you can look down and see on the map, oh, okay, there's a huge piece of fruit just right up in the corner, and you can grab and touch the screen at any time and drag that map around. It freezes the game, freezes all the enemies and the Pikmin in place, and lets you peruse around the entire map, even sections you haven't yet explored, which is really handy, and being able to do it on the fly with the touch is fantastic. You can also set your Pikmin and either of your 3 aliens to you can basically set courses with the gamepad by touching the locations you want them to move from one to the other location, and you set them on their course to the gamepad, and you control the other character you want with the Wii Remote and Nunchuck. You've got an amazing inventory of all of the Pikmin that you have on screen, who is doing what, which secret elements have you discovered in the game, how many Pikmin are here, how many have died, how much fruit have you gotten. All that stuff is located on the gamepad, and the fact that it's both informative and also tactile for the Pikmin 3 experience, to me, absolutely elevated that game beyond just a beautiful Pikmin game, but a special immersive type of experience that game just wouldn't have had without that gamepad. I think that's a pretty big deal. So that's why Pikmin 3 is my number 5 game as far as gamepad utilization. Moving on to number 4, Deus Ex Human Revolution. I almost said Deus Ex because I always want to call it Deus Ex, but I know that it's actually Deus Ex Human Revolution. The director's cut for the Wii U. This is a game that, honestly, its gamepad utilization is so good, you could almost claim it to be number 1, and I probably wouldn't argue. It's really hard to explain, but one of the things that we knew we were going to get with the gamepad going into the Wii U's release was a lot of maps. We'd see a lot of maps, and we'd see a lot of inventories on that gamepad, and you could either say, hey, that's a great thing for games, that's a wonderful addition to how you can interact with the game, or you could say that it's kind of a tired, simple idea, and it's not really that revolutionary. But with Deus Ex, they did some really special things, because the map integration is probably the best I've seen in almost any single game. You can scroll up and down between the different floors wherever you are in any building in that game. You can pinpoint where all of the enemies are. You can look around and see what each person is actually doing. You can set different courses, find your objectives. The inventory management is just unparalleled for what that game lets you do, except for maybe my number 1 game. It's got amazing inventory management with that. One of my favorite things about it is the way you level up all the different aspects of I can't remember what those augmentation, I think they're just called augments, actually. The augments that your character has in that game, because that's a big part of the story of Deus Ex. And all these different parts of your body, you can just go in so many different branching paths as far as what you're upgrading and what's your arm going to do, what's your heart and your vitality going to do, what is your feet and your speed and your brain and your vision, how can you upgrade them, and the way it's done on the gamepad is really unique and special, and it's something that to me makes you feel more like you are actually the augmented character you're supposed to be in that game. It brings you more into that world of this future augmentation of human beings and more into the character, because we know that he has that going on top of his body. I mean, more than half of him isn't even human anyway. And you kind of feel that way when you're manipulating the world and manipulating the character via the gamepad and that touchscreen. And the way you can get different angles and viewpoints just by looking at the screen and moving around the world, it's just fantastic. It's the kind of thing that really the gamepad was created for. So kudos to Square in wanting to bring the director's cut to the Wii U. It was initially Wii U exclusive, and sadly they decided to bring it to the other platforms as well. But that's okay, because they don't have what the Wii U version had, that amazing gamepad, easily the 4th best gamepad-related game I've played on the Wii U. Now, moving on to number 3 is a personal favorite of mine, and I'm really excited to talk about. It's actually pretty simple, but its implementation, I should say, is so perfect for this game. That game is The Wonderful 101. Now, of course, The Wonderful 101 is a very special game in its own right, because it's got amazing character and charisma and a unique style that no other game I've ever played has had, and that is credit to Platinum Studios, because they just know what they're doing when it comes to games and experiences like that. As far as the gamepad goes with The Wonderful 101, like I said, it's probably the most simple of any game on this list. you're playing that game, you're controlling one character, and you have a huge group of other characters around you fighting alongside of you that you're controlling. And at any time, you can draw on the screen with your finger or the stylus, but that would probably be really hard to do. You draw with your finger, and by drawing different shapes on the touchscreen using all the characters who are fighting with you, you turn them into other huge weapons that you fight with. It's that simple. I mean, that is probably the most basic use of the gamepad in that game, but it changes everything. It absolutely makes that game something more unique and special than it already is. There's something so fast about that where you're playing. And the reason I say that is because you can use the right thumbstick to kind of draw, push in a direction and draw out the shape of what your characters are going to create. You can do that, but to me, that is just complete bollocks. That is so slow compared to what you can do with your finger on the touchscreen. And granted, it doesn't always recognize properly, but I think that's more the game than it is the gamepad itself. And once you get good at it, you'll almost never have an issue. I mean, I've played that game so much that I probably could do it blindfolded and never miss a beat. Even the most difficult weapons to draw, like the hammer or the whip, you never mess those up once you do it enough, and that gamepad makes everything that much more tactile. It's also showing you it's not a map, it's a radar, and it's a great radar because it's not showing you the enemies and where you need to go. It's showing you where other folks and citizens in the world are that you can use the gamepad and the touchscreen to recruit into your team and become part of your wonderful 100 team that you have in that game. And it's so cool, man. It's such a unique way to make an already unique game that much more fresh feeling. There are a couple sections where you go inside small buildings and all of a sudden you're playing on the gamepad, which is cool, and you're using the camera control on the gamepad to look around as you control the characters only on the touchscreen. And I do like that your viewpoint goes down to the gamepad because it makes it feel like you're actually inside as opposed to outside. The camera control aspect using the gyro isn't wonderful in those sections, I will totally admit, but still the concept and the execution, the concept is great, the execution's okay, and the rest of the way the game uses the gamepad for drawing out your weapons, it's amazing. Like I said, it's easily the simplest use, but it's probably the most applicable, again, except for number one, as far as this game goes. It's just awesome. The Wonderful 101 is a radical game, and its gamepad usage is also radical, so can't argue with that. Moving on to number two, one of, if not my favorite platformers of all time, Rayman Legends. And yes, I know I'm including a Ubisoft game on this list, but I don't care what the haters say. I don't like Ubisoft either, but Rayman Legends is a masterpiece. It's perfect. I love that game, and it's the Wii U version that I love, because that game goes nuts, completely crazy with the gamepad. Every single level you're in, every single character you're playing as, every single objective you have set in front of you, you're going to use that gamepad, and it's going to be different almost every single time. Whether you're using Murphy and you're controlling him and moving him around to manipulate the world, and you're lifting platforms for Rayman to jump on, and you're cutting ropes so things move out of his way, or you're grabbing and pulling the cages out of the ground or items around so that Rayman can actually grab them and add them to his inventory. It doesn't matter what you're doing, Murphy's doing something. There's other wonderful levels where you're making Rayman will turn into another character, and you'll have to use Murphy to sort of eat through some of the material in the level, and you're actually creating the path of your character as your character walks through that. And you literally have choices in front of you, and if you need to get a specific item that might be hidden up at the corner, you better move Murphy and chomp through that part of the level in just the right way that your character makes it to that item and actually retrieves it. Otherwise, you're totally hosed and you'll never get it back. And it's all about looking at that gamepad, using that touchscreen, moving things around so that your character in that game is experienced to the way it's meant to be experienced. It is so cool. Tons of mini games and bonus levels where you're moving things around and making sure that a gyro is tilting a ramp or a wheel in a way that allows your character to progress the way he's supposed to. I mean, you get lottery tickets and you scratch them off by rubbing it on the touchscreen. You move around to different, menus and sub-menus just by moving the characters through the touchscreen. It's crazy. There's just so many things to do on the touchscreen of that game. It's already a wonderful game. And probably the reason it's not number one on the list is because I do have to concede that knowing they eventually decided to make a PS3 and a 360 version of this game, that I know you could still play it without the gamepad. And although it wouldn't be anywhere near as amazing, it would still be a pretty great game. And because I know that game could still be very playable and functional without the gamepad. I have to concede that I couldn't list it as number one, but it should be noted that the way the gamepad works in Rayman Legends is wonderful, and that's a third-party Actually, 3 of the 4 I've already listed have been made by third-party publishers, development studios, making wonderful games for the Wii U using the gamepad. So it kind of does show that there are some studios out there who are able to do that. And speaking of that, we're going to move to number 1, which is another third-party studio making a gamepad game for the Wii U. I feel like this is going to be incredibly controversial, but I stand by my decision. My favorite gamepad usage in any game is Zombiu. Yes, it's another Ubisoft game. Yes, Ubisoft gets spots number 1 and 2 on this list, but I don't care. I think both of those games are great, and Zombiu is absolutely to die for. It does everything that we thought the gamepad would do. It has delivered the number 1 most efficient promise of the gamepad. You've got your map, you've got your radar, you've got your inventory, you've got a character speaking to you through the gamepad, treating it as a radio or a walkie-talkie. You have the ability to snipe people with the scope of your sniper rifle by lifting it up and looking and moving it around. You have the ability to scan the environments by lifting and turning, and you can do it 360 degrees, and that gamepad creates a virtual 360-degree world right there in your hand on that screen. You've got touchscreen stuff, you've got your weapons, you've got hiding in a backpack, you've got reading through newspaper clippings and articles, you've got all the different tricks that you learn throughout the game, and you can go and read through them. You've got your options menu. There is nothing the gamepad doesn't do next to microwave you dinner in Zombiu. That thing frickin' does everything, and I applaud Ubisoft. Ubisoft, you've done such wonderful things with the gamepad and the Wii U. It's a shame that you've decided to drop them from your AAA game development and your hardcore game titles. I think that is your fault and your loss. Well, it's the gamer's loss and it's Ubisoft's loss. But I still will never take away from the fact that Ubisoft has created an amazing gamepad experience for the Wii U. They launched the Wii U with one of the best games I think that's available on the platform. It's Zombiu, and that game really is so good because of the gamepad. If it didn't have the gamepad, it would be, admittedly, just a mediocre zombie game. That's really all it would be. It's got great tone, it's got great atmosphere, and it is genuinely scary and freaky in a lot of parts. I really appreciate the story. But the execution overall is really just okay. But because that gamepad changes the game, it literally elevates that game to something way more unique than it would have been without it. And so I applaud you, Ubisoft, for making not just 1, but 2 amazing gamepad games for the Wii U. You know, it's too bad that you got your heads so far up your butts that you don't want to do anything else with the Wii U going forward. Maybe that'll change soon. We'll have to see. But like I said, they've done wonderful things. So I know it's going to be controversial, and most people probably won't agree, but this is just my personal list of the 5 games that I think are the best utilization for the Wii U and the gamepad. And without question, Zombiu is the best. It is my absolute favorite. Congratulations, Ubisoft, you crazy fools. You made my favorite game. So, pretty cool. So that's it, you know, I'll wrap this up here. Those are my 5 favorite games that use the gamepad properly on the Wii U. It's a very hotly debated topic. Some people will even tell you they think that Nintendo should drop the Wii U, a la Microsoft with Kinect, how they dropped that from the Xbox One. It's a little bit different because the Kinect obviously wasn't integral to the Xbox One experience, and I do own an Xbox One, so I can confirm that. With the Wii U, I think that you need this gamepad. You need it to operate just the Miiverse and the main UI interface for the system. I mean, the operating system for the Wii U is literally built around the usage of the gamepad. So you need it. You gotta have it. Luckily, there are a lot of games, despite what people say to the contrary, there are many games that take advantage of the Wii U and the gamepad. There's quite a few that I didn't even mention on this list. You know, I actually had to pick through a list of about 10 or 12 that were really, you know, awesome, confident uses of the gamepad. So, you know, it's up for debate. People could have a very different list. I expect people to have a very different list. You know, there's a lot to pick from, and I think that that's pretty cool. So I would say, and I would encourage you to share your list in the comments below. I do want to hear, A, what you think of my list and my 5 favorite gamepad games, and B, what are your 5 favorite gamepad games? What is the one game that stands out to you as the best usage of the gamepad that you've had in any Wii U game yet? Like I said, there's a lot to pick from. It's a wonderful, fun, unique, brand new way to play games, and I applaud Nintendo for doing this and trying something different. I still believe in the gamepad. I still believe in Nintendo delivering a bunch of new gamepad experiences moving forward. I think that indie developers are starting to do great things. There's a lot of indie games that have made great use of the gamepad as well. So I would encourage you to look into those. Yeah, and that's it, man. So thanks for tuning in and checking out my list of my 5 favorite gamepad games on the Wii U. I hope that you enjoyed this. I really want to hear what you have to say. If you're new to the channel, please feel free to subscribe to Rule of 2 Review, like, share, and comment, share your list below, and I'll catch you guys next time on another video for Rule of 2 Review.